Hello everybody, I'm John. This is the Midnight Paint and Body channel. On this video I'm going to show you how to replace wheel arches and wheel houses on your 07 to 2013 GM truck. So what we're working on here today is a 2012 Silverado, a little short box version crew cab. So what we're going to be doing on this one is wheel arches, wheel houses, as well as some other tidying up. I'm going to be painting the rockers, just blasting them and cleaning them up and painting them. And we're going to be getting the windshield removed, and we're doing the roof as well. It's got the typical rust along the front edge. This era of trucks was bad for that. So let's just have a quick look at our wheel arch areas. So now, as you can see, we've got a lot of bubbling along there. Now, kind of the typical way you can tell, I mean, by the time you see this, guys, it's rusted through. There is no two ways about it. By the time you see those bubbles, that's because it's rusting from the inside. Especially when you see that the paint isn't broken. So that tells you that moisture is coming from the inside because it hasn't even cracked the paint yet. So often, yeah, see, there you go. Those guys are full of water. See that? They're gonna pop like a pimple. So this definitely needs wheel arches, and my experience with these trucks, they always need the wheel houses as well. You get this outer skin off and that wheel house will be rusted through on the inside. I'll show you that once we cut her open. Now, like most trucks, the driver's side is worse. It's just the way these are. Everything is always worse on the driver's side. I believe it's because, I mean, the traffic coming towards you, you're driving towards the traffic. This is where the bulk of the crap on the roads gets piled up. This is where the bulk of the debris off other vehicles hits your vehicles on the driver's side. So, yeah, just pretty common. So yeah, this side. Yeah, you can see those are all full of water. And we are having a good little bit of rain right now, so. Anyway, so that is our plan. We're gonna be fixing this old truck up. And yeah, definitely a worthy truck. It's reasonably low miles. Seems to be in nice shape otherwise. So I'll show you what we have for parts. So our wheel arches. So even number be the right side, RRP 3766. This should be an odd number for the passenger side. RRP 3765, or for the driver's side, sorry. And then our wheel houses, right side, RRP 4444. And driver's side RRP 4443. So these are obviously aftermarket parts. Your auto parts store can get these for you. And I usually recommend that over ordering online, because online stuff you just don't know for sure what you're gonna get. At least when you buy locally, you can return it if it's a problem. So these are, you just stick that on there, a little bit of glue and you're done. No, it's not that easy. So we're going to be cutting out our bedside, we're going to be trimming these. One quick little tip before we even get into it, don't ever leave these square. If you're using the full panel, round them off. This concentrates too much heat when you're welding if you go to a corner, and it'll pretty much always sink. So let's take a minute, round off your panels, but we'll get to that once we start cutting this thing open. Now this era of these trucks, the 7 to 13 style, they have a 3-piece wheelhouse. So on the older ones it was all 1 piece. So they were tough to change the wheelhouse if you're not changing the whole bed side. It can be done, I mean I've done them. But these are a little nicer because you don't have to take this entire thing out. And this is all welded to your inner bed panel as well. So you kind of make a mess of the inside of the box, and then trying to get all these spot welds out, you kind of mess up the stuff you have to weld back together unless you're super careful. But these are just that centerpiece. You can see they're flanged where they're going to meet those end pieces. So these are right up in there. You're going to find that by the time you see this, that's rusted through on your outside panel, this is going to be rusted through as well. So you should pretty much always order these if you're doing this. If you're just scabbing an old truck together, you can just throw the outside panels on. If you're, you know, just trying to make something look a little better for a while or whatever, but plan on keeping it, definitely replace these as well. The little trick that I do on these before cutting anything, I'm gonna put our panel in place. Use the world's worst Sharpie because that's the only kind I own. And we're just going to trace out that panel. Now, that is not where we're cutting. The reason I do that is just for when I start trimming this out, I know not to go beyond that line. So I do these a couple of different ways. I will either trim perfectly to a nice butt match. Sometimes I will leave a 1/2 inch of metal and overlap it a little bit. Everyone kind of tells me what it wants. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if you're just starting out doing this stuff, just leave a little overlap. Butt welding is tough. It is the best way to do it, but there is nothing wrong with leaving that little overlap for the metal to go over as well. So I'm gonna go grab a grinder and some gear, and we're gonna start trimming this panel out. So now you can see why these rust so bad. So you see all of this wet dirt. So it's a really tight tolerance between this outer panel and that inner wheelhouse. So all of this dirt sits in there and just rusts your truck out. Now, I've said it before, I believe they are engineered that way purposely to rust out in about 10 years. These modern vehicles, they keep on running, but they all rust. It doesn't matter which brand, they all do it. Some worse than others, but I truly believe the manufacturers want these things to rust in about 10 years, or they wouldn't sell new trucks. And quite honestly, that's why I'm always booked for months and months in advance with rust repair, because well, most guys aren't willing to do it. I don't mind doing it at all, and there's no shortage of it if you're willing to put in the work. You're not going to get rich doing it, but you can make a living, and that's what I do. So, I'm going to keep trimming that out. Now, actually, the one thing I've recommended to guys over the years, over and over, you know, washing your truck, you wash up in that wheel well, that doesn't get any of this. Once a year, pop your tail lights out, you get your pressure washer and you shoot it straight in there, and you should be able to blow a lot of that crap out of there. Personally, when I wash my own truck, every time I go to the car wash, I take the wand and stick it up inside the bedside that way, and from the front up this way, and try and keep all this stuff cleaned out. So, oh yeah, one other thing. You can see these do have these access plugs. So you can see in the new wheelhouse there. So for what it's worth, I mean, you can from inside the wheel well. I just don't want to lose that guy. You know, you can get those popped out of there from up inside, and you can probably get a hose or whatever in there and clean this stuff out. Or while it's dry, get up in there with some sort of penetrating oil and, you know, soak. If this stuff is all soaked with oil, then it's going to keep the moisture away. So just a few little tips. Let's see if I got something pokey here. And I'll show you what I was talking about with these inner wheelhouses. So, no obvious holes, but you can see how easy I can poke through that, and you can see how soft it is. There's nothing left to that inner. So like I said in the beginning, if you're just scabbing an old truck together, you could probably put a new panel over that. But if you're keeping the truck, or especially if you're like me and you're doing the work for a paying customer, you definitely have to replace that inner. So I'm going to keep trimming that panel off, and then I'll bring you guys back to have another look. So let's start trimming out our inner wheelhouse, or outer wheelhouse. I always call those inner wheelhouse, but this is actually the outer wheelhouse. The inner wheelhouse is inside your bed. So the one thing you need to know, so I don't know if you can pick up on camera, but there's spot welds going around right there. So all the way around that wheelhouse, that's where that is welded to this inside panel. So you are going to be burning the paint on the inside of the bed when you do these, when you weld them in. And it also means you want to be a little careful removing them, because you don't want to be tearing holes in the inside of your box. Create more work for yourself. So now you can see, so you see the way those are flanged. Those sit underneath these outside pieces. So usually what I do with these to start, I'm just going to take a zip cut, I'm going to cut both sides, and then I'm going to cut along the inside and just get this piece out of the way, and then we'll work at trimming the remains out of there to fit the new one in. Oh, guess my camera fell down. Where'd that one go? I'll find it when I sweep up. So there's our outer wheelhouse. copper weld-through primer. Hopefully there's a little left in there. I got a new can somewhere. Yeah, spraying all over. Now we're going to punch some holes. So I want a couple here. Do a hole punch. Oh, come on now. And our flange around the back. Now, obviously, if you don't have a pneumatic hole punch, a drill does the same job. It just takes a little longer. So now we're basically ready to put our panel in. So I did kind of a quick pre-fit there already. Punch. Perfect. So there she is. So now obviously we want to be nice and tight to the inner bed side, which we are. And then, so these holes already there just from me using the air chisel to take it apart, and there's the one I punched, so I'll be able to reach in there and weld these. Same here. I'll probably put a clamp on these guys to be sure that we've got a nice tight fit. And then yeah, just 3, 4, 5 spot welds around the inside. So I'm gonna get the welder set up and we'll burn this guy in. Well, that's what you don't want to do, is blow a hole through the inner box side. I got a little carried away with my heat there. So I'm gonna have to weld that one up solid. Now this next step, you can do it if you choose. I figure anything you can do to make this stuff last longer is worth it. So this is just some POR 15. you're not familiar, it's a super good quality rust preventative paint. POR 15, paint over rust. That is what the POR stands for. Now, you clean off as much of the loose scale and stuff as you can, but this stuff bonds like concrete to the rust. It doesn't bond to bare metal. If you put this on bare metal, it's just going to peel off. That's not what it's designed for. This stuff is designed for painting over rust and sealing up rust. So now I like to do this while I have access to this part. Now after this is all said and done, once we've got our wheel arch welded on, I'm going to be spraying this stuff up inside and trying to coat where I've put the new panel on. So these little extra steps, of course, for me, I mean, I try and warranty my repairs the best I can. I mean, within reason, obviously. Rust will always come back at some point. But the way I figure when I do these things, you know, they lasted 10 years from the factory. They should last that long or close to it again without rusting through, I would think. Okay, so that'll be all nice and sealed up. So I think I'm gonna go take a break, maybe even an early lunch. This stuff takes a long time to dry, but by the time I get back, it should be kind of tacked up enough that we can start working around it to start fitting our wheel arch panel. So we've got our inner panel all treated, and I've got my patch panel kind of prepared. Like I've mentioned before, I've got everything kind of rounded off the panel to where I'm going to use it. So once again, I'm going to hold it in place. And mark it out. So the reason I'm doing that now is because I like to leave about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch of overlap that this panel is going to go on top of. So by marking that out now we can trim this back a little more until we've just got that little bit left that I want there. So pretty straightforward there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, you know, that probably from there down, off. We're going to leave about 3/8 of an inch, and then we'll be ready to treat that and put our panel on. you get to this point, I cannot stress this enough, guys. Patience. Small welds, lots of cooling. If you try, even if you try putting a 1/2 inch weld here and here and here and here, you're gonna warp the hell out of your panel. Small welds, lots of tacks. It's more grinding, it's more time, it's messier, but it's the way it has to be done. This is a big flat panel. Any extreme heat in one spot, this thing is gonna sink, it's gonna be a big wavy mess. So, patience. I know it's hard, I struggle with it too. Really, I do. It sucks. It's, you know, in the old days where you could just, you know, do a couple welds, go for a cigarette, just like painting. But thankfully I haven't smoked in 22 years. Something like that. So I'm gonna keep on welding. I'm gonna turn the camera off because it's just welding. And we'll see you guys in a few minutes. There's our panel fully welded, our welds ground down. What I'm going to do now is just give our welds a coat of some short strand, Evercoat Everglass short strand body filler. So that seals up all the welds and everything. Probably as far as I will get today. I actually need to finish up a little early today, but we'll finish up the bodywork tomorrow and then I'll probably finish it up before I turn it around for the other side. But yeah, we'll do a little bit of Everglass, which seals up the welds, and then when I fill this, I'm probably going to do body filler from that line to that line, this entire thing. Now, that always looks really bad to people that don't know. They're like, oh no, Bondo is bad. Body filler is what it is. That's what it's for, as long as you're not overusing it. Now, you know, this panel is all pretty good. I'm gonna just do the initial coat of short strand fiberglass filler and then one good coat of body filler, and by the time we take it all off, there's very little actually staying on the panel. So I'm gonna get that on there, and then I think we'll probably see you guys tomorrow. Here's a little peek on the other side, guys. I just cut the wheel arch out. So this one, I think, will give a little better visual of what goes on inside these things. So you can see how scaly that is. This is all through. So whenever you think you have surface rust on the outside, this is what you have on the inside. And again, so this one you can really see how all that dirt packs in there. So all of this sits in there and stays wet. So anytime you can clean up underneath, like I said, through the taillight and get rid of this stuff, that's the best thing you can do. As you can see, this is just always there. And then of course, our inner panel. So this side is a little worse than the driver's side was, but it, yeah, definitely gives a little better look at what we're dealing with. So I've been working away on the Chevy here. I've got a good start on the other side. I just thought I'd kind of show you guys the basically finished bodywork on this side. Now, I think I told you from the start I would be putting filler on this entire thing. Now, this is the part that always freaks people out. It's like, oh, there's all that Bondo in my car. This is a very, very thin coat. So I put a strip of the fiberglass filler over the welds, knock that off. Now this is just one coat of filler. Now the reason I go all the way across is that's the way you make things straight. You can see, so I had a little bit of a low there and a little bit of a low there where I had to give it just a little skim after I'd sanded that off. But really, like, this is just a skim. So it's probably, quite honestly, it's probably not much thicker than, you know, 3-4 good coats of primer. So this side, a little bit more blocking, it's basically done. I started stripping the front edge of the roof. Now this windshield is coming out, but I always like to strip these and then I'm going to sandblast the front edge before the windshield is removed. And these here, I should have thought to have recorded this, so if you ever need to take one of these shark fins off, I remember being told long ago that you couldn't take these off without pulling the headliner out, but they do come off. Now this is the retainer underneath, so it's just, this just clips into place, and then it's just got this one bolt. Okay, battery just died, hopefully we didn't lose that. But yeah, so I was just saying, we've got that one retainer. Now, if you take off your sun visor, this one piece of trim, and you also need to undo this seat belt and take this piece of trim off, and you can get this corner of the headliner down. Now you have to be careful. I mean, if you kink this headliner, that, you know, then it's junk. But I can just get my hand in there with a short 10mm wrench and get that nut off. I've done quite a few of these. Now if you're a big dude with great big mitts on you, you're probably going to need someone with smaller hands to do it for you. I mean, I'm not a real big guy. I'm able to get my hands in there. And of course, be conscious of the fact that, you know, these are your side curtain airbags. So, you know, that's obviously pretty important stuff. Now the plug for these is quite a ways in there. I can't reach it to undo it. I've taken like a sandpaper tube or something, and I'll prop that up like that for priming and painting. That's what I've always done with those. So just a little tip in case you need to take one of those off. So I'm going to carry on with my welding on the other side, and hopefully I can get that all done to the point where tomorrow we'll get this outside and sandblast the front of the roof and the rockers, and we'll be really close to getting this in for some primer. Well, I'm back. So it's after lunch on Wednesday. I got this out this morning and got some sandblasting done. So it cleans up everything really nicely, as you can see. Fortunately, this truck, the rocker panels are beautiful. They did have a fair bit of surface rust on them. I mean, they take a lot of rocks and stuff down there, so they're all cleaned up. And I sandblasted the front of the roof. Now that's why I like to do these before I get the windshield taken out, even though once the windshield is out, I'm gonna have to clean up right down inside there, but it just keeps a lot of the mess out of the truck. So I do have the glass guys coming out in about half an hour. I'm gonna pull the windshield out, so I'm just gonna continue on with some sanding, and hopefully by the end of the day we're gonna have this in the booth for some primer. Well, good morning. It's bright and early. Step into my office. So I got primer on our Chevy yesterday. couple coats of yeah, can't even speak this morning. A couple of coats of epoxy primer, and then 3 coats of high build urethane primer. So this is all ready to prep. The bedsides just need to be block sanded. Rockers are primed, and our roof as well. So I'm going to move this out of the booth. The shop is just warming up. We're getting to that time of year where she's cold in the morning. But yeah, I'll get this moved out and we're going to start prepping. So I'm not going to get too much into the prepping on this one, but it's all pretty straightforward. Block sanding, finishing. So now, just something I figured I would show you. So now you see these different colors here. Now a lot of guys will use a ground, or not a ground coat, a guide coat. Stuff you spray on the panel, or even an old spray can, you just spray it and it shows up your low spots. Something I've always done is just put a few drops of black paint in my last coat of high build primer. So now you can see that was a little bit of a low there, so that's, you know, it feels good. You don't feel it, but it does kind of show things up as you're blocking. Now up here, so the dark gray, that would be my epoxy primer. And then we've got a little bit of body filler showing, so that just tells us we had a little bit of a high spot there. But I have blocked it until it feels good. So yeah, just basic stuff, but so you can see where we had some sand scratches. We still have a little bit on the edge there, so that needs to be sanded a little more, or possibly just a tiny bit of finishing putty in there. So the way I typically do things is to prep for paint. So this little burn through, before this is done, I'll probably just dust that with a little aerosol primer and give it a quick scuff. Some guys will seal the panel. That saves a little bit of sanding. So I could finish this in 320 grit and seal it and paint it. I prefer to sand down to 400 and then it's ready just to paint. Everybody's different. Every booth is different. I've had guys in the comments say, oh, you know, that's dumb, just seal it. Well, you're not painting in a homemade paint booth. So it's all different. Adding a step in the paint process isn't always the best thing when you're not in a perfect environment. So, oh yeah, one other thing you should remember. So I've blocked initially with 180, I took it down a bit with 180. I switched to 220 grit on the block. And then from 220, I will go to 320, and then I will finish with 400. The 100 grit rule, always remember that in prepping. Don't ever increase or decrease grit by more than 100 grits. I mean, if you were to, you know, block this with 180 and then try and just finish sand it with 400, you're not going to get rid of those 180 scratches. You need to slowly increase. You need to slowly increase your grit. So you're making sure you're taking out all of the scratches from the sandpaper you just used until you get down to the final grit where you're going to be happy for paint. So I'm going to continue on with my blocking, excuse me, and we'll see you guys in a bit. And just like that, we are masked up in the booth, almost ready to paint. For bedsides, roof, and rockers. What I'm going to do now, grab an air line, Go over to this side of the truck. So I've got the bottom kind of masked off for some rock guard. So I want to put a coat of rock guard on the rockers and just on those lower parts on the box. Now, I've said it before, this is one of the most overused products in this industry. Rock guard does not have rust preventative capabilities. It is not a cure-all. It's a rubberized coating that you paint over that gives a little bit of cushion for the rocks in high impact areas like rocker panels. So, got to grab my mask. I'm just going to give all of this stuff a coat. See what you can see down there. And then I'm going to let it sit for half an hour. So there's our paint mixed and first coat put on. So that'll take another 2 for sure, maybe another 3 coats of base before we're ready for clear. The base coat, 10 minutes, I'll hit it again. It'll be pretty much, you know, as long as you can tack it off, it's good to recoat. All right, 10 minutes. I'm gonna give that a second coat of clear, and I'll bring you guys back a little later once it clears out in there and she's cured up enough we can go in for a look. Well, it's been a couple hours, so let's go have a look. I haven't even been in here yet. Oh, quite a bit of dust actually on this bedside. Quite a bit. Chunky there. Oh yeah, she's cured up pretty good. Nothing a little sand and polish won't fix, but panel looks nice and straight anyway. Yeah. This side looks better, not as many dust nibs. Yeah, the roof looks alright. Threw that on there to keep the plastic from flapping while I was spraying. Yeah, well, we're getting close to the end of the day on Friday, so that's good. This can sit all weekend. And then Monday, I'll get the glass guys out to put the windshield in. And I'll do whatever little bit of polishing and assembly it needs, and we'll be ready to go. So I'll see you guys back on this one on Monday. Hey guys, thought I'd give you a little check-in. So it's Monday today. This truck's got to go tomorrow. I have a little confession to make. I am repainting it, the whole job. Now, I don't know if I mentioned on this one that this truck didn't have a paint coat, and you run into that occasionally. So I went through all my chips. I found all of the colors that were used in 2012 on the Silverado. First one I came up with was this. So this is the GM, I don't know if it's got a name, Gray Stone Metallic, so the WA213M. There's 4 variants on this color. I picked the best one. It looked really good on the chips. I painted the truck. Truck looked really good. I unmasked the truck. Color was too gray. Didn't have enough red. Wasn't happy with it. I mean, it was close. So I went back to the drawing board. Turns out that this truck is actually WA706S Magna Steel. So there's kind of one of those things that you're up against. There's the color I used. Looked bad on the truck. There's the actual color. You know, when you don't have a paint coat, it can really throw you off. I should have just phoned GM in the first place, but I saw that one. I was like, yeah, that's the color. So one of those things. This sucks, but I mean, I'll get this painted today and I can still get it put together tomorrow. They're coming to put the windshield in first thing in the morning. So I'll still get it out tomorrow, but now just another little thing for just to kind of put into perspective for some guys why this stuff is so expensive. Now, I used up the last of my clear, so I just had to get some clear. I mean, that's, you know, it's a consumable. I get it all the time. So there's a gallon of clear, 2 quarts of hardener, and that's a gallon of black toner for my paint system. Put your guesses down below. Yeah, that's a $1,000 box. So I'm not complaining. I'm just a perspective thing for guys that don't understand why this stuff is expensive. You know, the labor is what it is, but man, materials are brutal. And this is a cost-efficient system that I use, this PPT shop line. Sort of a entry level, I suppose you'd say. It's not, I mean, I really like it. I like it a lot, but it's not the highest end stuff by any means. So, you know, you can get far more expensive products than what I use. So anyway, just a little check-in. I'm going to finish masking this up. I'll have it painted, no problem today, and then, yeah, I'll put her together tomorrow. One of those things. Well, hello. We're under the truck right now. So we're out of the booth. This color has fought me tooth and nail, but something I forgot to do before I painted the truck was to coat the inside. So now you can see, here's the inside of a panel. Oh, there we go. And it is not coated. So what I have got, it's magnetic. I can put that right there. Okay, it's magnetic, but it's a crappy magnet. Let's see if I can put this somewhere. There we go. All right. So this is not actually gravel guard. This is just an old can. So I have dumped some POR 15 into this can so I can shoot it through a Schutz gun. And I'm going to show you why I do it that way. Oh. Okay. Well, I'll just show you this first little bit. And I'll need to use both hands, but so you can see up in my panel. And I'm going to keep coating it like that until we have complete coverage with this rust preventative paint. I think Sorry, I'm doing a bad job with the camera. I think this does a better job than using undercoating, personally. This stuff is really, really good paint, so it's going to kind of seal everything up. So I'm going to coat it all like that, and then bring you guys back for whatever's next. So moving on with our little Chevy project here this morning. I'm just waiting on the glass guys coming to put the windshield in. Something I forgot to turn on and show you guys. So I've showed you this before. I mean, if you watch my videos, you'll know this, but this is a pressure pot undercoating gun filled with used motor oil. And as you can see, it's pouring all out the bottom of the truck. That's because I pumped that stuff all into the doors and really heavily into the rockers and cab corners. And I haven't done the box yet, but I'm going to, even though I've sprayed all that with rust preventative paint, I'm going to coat it in oil as well before I'm done. So now obviously the rockers are still really solid on this truck, but it's a 12-year-old truck. We don't know what's going on inside. They could be ready to burst through from the inside. No matter what you do on the outside, it's not going to stop what's happening on the inside, like I showed you with those panels we cut out of the box. So spraying those rockers full of oil is going to soak all of that rust that's inside with oil. So now moisture getting in there is going to be repelled by the oil. Hopefully it's going to make things last a lot longer. And just what I'm doing now, so this is just part of painting in a homemade paint booth. So some dust nibs in the panels, so this is just sanded with 1500, 2000, and 2500, just a light wet sand. Now I'm going to polish it. So, I mean, it's not a show car. It's just a pickup truck, but still, I don't want stuff going out with dust nibs in the paint. I'll get it the best I can. And now, the elephant in the room. Through the camera, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me, that color looks terrible. Outside, it's perfect. Say what you want. You might not believe me. I should actually, maybe before it goes, once I've got this thing outside, I will we'll have a look at it just so you can see I'm not crazy. Because under these fluorescent lights is really throwing that off, and this is a color I had a lot of trouble with. But anyway, I'm going to polish out this panel, and that should be the last thing until the windshield's in, and then just clean up and a wash. I've already ran the buffer over the sides just to bring the paint back a little bit. Once it's all washed up, it'll look nice. So a little polishing on the bedside, and we're almost there. So there you go. Hopefully you can see that through the camera, but the shine comes right back, only better. So I can still see a few scratches. I mean, that was just a light polish, but I will keep going until this looks really good. So there she is, guys. Another one ready to go home to the customer. So yes, this one fought me a little bit, having some trouble with the color, but it looks bang on outside, so I am happy about that. So now, as always, I know not everyone has the means to do this themselves. I mean, to have the tools and the place to do it and everything involved. If you do, hopefully this helps you out if you want to try and tackle this. If you don't and you're looking to have this done, it gives you an idea what's involved. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, I appreciate you guys for checking it out, and as always for the likes and the comments and the shares. That really is what keeps my channel going, and I totally appreciate it. Oh yeah, we'll have a look at our roof. I don't know what you can see, I just washed it, so I don't know what you can see up there, but yeah, the box turned out nice, so hopefully my customer is happy with it. And I hope you guys come back and check out the next video.